So one of the things that I miss about living in New York, if you didn't know, I lived there for about 7 years back in the 90s. It was a lot of fun. People ask me all the time, what do you miss? Do you miss living in New York? Well, I don't miss, paying the rent. You miss the food, right? There's so much great food, any kind of cuisine you want it all. One of the best, my all-time favorite things was a Rueben from Cat's Deli. So again, now that I'm plant-based, I'm gonna show you a really great recipe how to make a classic Rueben, but it's Joey D's Rueben, so it's all plant-based. And I've got one in the pan here ready to go. Check this out. Look at that. I've got some crusty rye bread in there. I've got my seitan that I made. I'm going to show you here in just a minute. Oh, get that crunch in there. We're going to cut this up, and you're going to see this is a classic Rueben, but it's all plant-based, no animal product whatsoever. So what I've done, and I've shown you this before, I like to make seitan, which is basically, they call it wheat meat. It's made with vital wheat gluten. It's the gluten part of the wheat flour where they cook it out. Really simple. It looks like a lot of ingredients. I'm going to put all this stuff together. A little tofu gives a nice creamy consistency to this as well. I'm going to blend it up in my food processor. Then I add in the vital wheat gluten, and then what I do is I steam it in a pan. I wrap it in some cellophane and steam it. You can boil it, you can bake it, but I find that steaming is the best because you get a nice meaty consistency without it being too dry or too moist. You don't want it too wet either. And look at that. Again, this is all plant-based. Oh, I wish you could smell it. Some of these spices, it's sort of like pickling spices. And I've got this great crusty rye bread. You gotta use a great classic crusty rye bread for your Rueben. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my plant-based butter, put it on one side just like that. I've got my pan ready to go, my preheated pan here. Sizzle, sizzle, and then I'm just gonna build it right in the pan. You gotta use sauerkraut for a classic Rueben. This is classic old school sauerkraut, right? The other thing that you have to have is you have to have Thousand Island dressing, and I made my own vegan base. It's all plant-based. I just use that vegan mayo. Hellman's makes a great version, any kind you'd like. There's readily available. This is really simple too. Little sweet relish, little tomato sauce, little ketchup, some seasoning. Really great. You gotta have Thousand Island dressing. So I'm gonna build this right in the pan with my seitan, my plant-based corned beef. I wish you could smell this. Oh, it smells so good. And again, what we want to do is, if you're looking for a meatless Monday, you're just looking for something different to do, you're trying to cut back on the red meat, maybe for health issues, maybe for animal, whatever your reasoning is, you don't have to miss out. You don't have to sacrifice on flavor and things that you love. If you love a good Rueben, you gotta try this. Please try this. It's super easy to make. We want to hear about it. How did it go? How did it work? Did you love it? Swiss cheese, you gotta have Swiss for a Rueben. Again, plant-based Swiss cheese. It tastes and smells and melts just like regular cheese, but it's all dairy-free, all plant-based. And then once we build that in the pan, I'm gonna get my other side of my bread buttered. We're gonna do it just like you do a grilled cheese. And what you're gonna do is let this simmer in here for a little bit. That cheese is gonna get nice and melted. That bread's gonna get nice and crusty like that. You see that thick, juicy corned beef in there, your Thousand Island, your Swiss cheese, your sauerkraut for that sour crunch. You're not gonna believe how good this is. And remember, it's all plant-based. For those of you that know, plant-based is the way to go.